Hello Travel Bugs, Dianne and Guillermo here again. This time discussing one of those topics that causes a lot of debate among retirees and expats living abroad. Should we buy a property?
Or should we rent a property?
There are really strong arguments on both sides. Many advocates for ownership have the desire for a stable permanent home, continued wealth building, diversifying overseas investments, and securing their children's future.
Others prefer to rent indefinitely, choosing to enjoy their lifelong earnings to the fullest and support their children while they are still alive. We're going to explore every angle, reveal our personal opinions about both, and give you the pros and cons of each. Hopefully, by the end, you'll know if you're on team buy or team rent. So let's go. Thank you for joining us again. We're halfway through 2025 and time sure does fly. We've been busy making our rounds around Europe, and we're excited to visit more of the Costa Blanca in the coming weeks, and we get to explore Japan in the next couple months. We are super excited for that trip. We have many video projects in the works, so if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe now.
Today, we're breaking down the pros and cons of buying versus renting property overseas. We've divided the video into 3 parts: the pros and cons of each, key considerations for expats and their families, and what would be the best strategy to use to settle this debate. We'll also be revealing the results of the recent poll in our YouTube community to see where our audience stands on this exact question. Stick around for the results. The outcome definitely added fuel to our discussion.
Personally, I'm all in with renting for the rest of my life. I want the freedom to choose when and where I want to live, and I want to do it while I can. Buying property overseas feels like this profound emotional and psychological commitment. And believe me, we know. We own rental properties in the US, we've remodeled a home in the past, and we've had a home built from scratch. Although they were exciting times, building and remodeling took a lot of work, a lot of responsibility, and commitment. I don't think I want to go through a project that big again. The biggest advantage of renting to me is flexibility. If a new city doesn't feel like home after the first 6 months, I can simply pack up and move when the lease ends. This allows me to test drive multiple locations in the search of a permanent home without a massive financial anchor. I tend to get bored fairly quickly in a neighborhood, and if it wasn't for our dogs, I'd be moving more often. And for the minimalists like me, who require little decor beyond the essential kitchen appliances and office equipment, the ability to simply pack up and move is a significant advantage. Another big advantage of renting is that it requires a lot less money up front, typically just a security deposit and the first month's rent. That's a far cry from the large down payment, closing costs, and potential renovation expenses that come with buying a house. I like to save that money and put it to a better use. We can keep our retirement savings more liquid and flexible instead of tying up a large chunk of money in real estate. We can use it to invest in other opportunities, fund our travels, and simply enjoy a little perk here and there. On top of that, renting also means we're not responsible for annual property taxes, which can vary depending on the country that you choose to live in. It's just one less financial burden to worry about, especially important when living abroad where tax laws and ownership rules can get pretty complex. Oh, and one important perk that I really enjoy, many European countries don't require tenants to sign up for their own utilities. Landlords handle the usual services like cable, electricity, water, and gas under their name. And in our case in Lisbon, we just pay the landlord when we receive the utility bills. It truly helps avoid dealing with bureaucracy and red tape when installing or transitioning service under our name. And don't forget to take into account if you need to rent a home, furnished or unfurnished. Rent costs may change drastically. Do you have kitchen utensils, appliances, or do you need a yard if you own large pets? You have to determine how minimalist you can be and what level of comfort you want. We choose to rent furnished homes because we carry a light load. If we purchase anything during a lease term, it's just simple and inexpensive furniture that we can easily donate or sell at the end of the lease. IKEA is the go-to place in Portugal for expats to fill their homes. Prices are cheap, and although the quality isn't great, it has improved over time. In Spain, there are Costco's where you can purchase furniture just like in the United States. Another perk of renting when living abroad is that when something breaks, it is not our responsibility to fix it. Whether it's a leaky roof, a broken water heater, or an AC unit ready to croak, those headaches fall under the landlord and not us. That alone can be a huge lifestyle benefit. You don't have to stress about finding the right contractor or navigating repairs in different language or unfamiliar system. Renting gives us the peace of mind that those major and often expensive repairs are someone else's responsibility, which frees up our time and mental energy. I stress enough over our rental properties in the US, I don't need any more. Renting overseas also gives you a layer of protection against the ups and downs of the local real estate markets. If property values take a hit, I don't lose any equity because I haven't tied up my money in a home. Then you question, market swings also affect the renter, right? What if my landlord decides to tack on a rent increase when my lease comes up for renewal? In most markets, those hikes tend to be gradual, and in Mexico and Portugal, we have seen rents climb by about 2 to 5% each year over the last 6 years. And you can always negotiate new lease terms, or, as a last resort, pack up and try other neighborhoods, especially if you don't own many things and it's easy for you to just move. Renting is a much simpler exit strategy. Again, when you're ready to move on, all you have to do is finish your lease. No need to deal with the long, expensive, and often bureaucratic process of selling a property, especially in a foreign country where the legal and financial systems can be confusing. Owning a home, on the other hand, ties you down. You might go in with the intention of staying a few years, but before you know it, life happens and you've been in the same place much longer than planned. Renting helps preventing that kind of settle-in trap. Every lease renewal feels like a fresh start to me, and I see it as a reminder of a new adventure.
Now, one big downside of renting is that none of those monthly payments ever turn into an investment for us. They all go straight into our landlord's pocket. We're paying 2,000 euros a month. That's 24,000 euros a year. And when the year is up, poof, that money is gone and there's no equity to show for it. Over time, that's hundreds of thousands of euros we could have been putting toward a mortgage and building real ownership, instead of simply covering someone else's mortgage. And get this, mortgage rates in Europe are currently between 3 to 8%. Spain's rates as of 2025 are 2.5%. That's an opportunity that's hard to pass on if you have the capital. And if you have the cash to buy outright, you eliminate a monthly housing payment altogether, which can dramatically reduce your living expenses in retirement. Your fate is in your landlord's hands. They might decide to sell the building, hike up the rent at renewal, or simply choose not to extend the lease, leaving you scrambling for a new place on short notice. Every rental market comes with its own curveballs. We faced one of them in Guadalajara, Mexico. When COVID happened, our landlord was forced to return from his overseas stay to live in his house. We didn't want to be roommates, so we had to move quickly and find a place during a global pandemic. Pretty stressful, and the new rental was not as nice as the one we left. Also, in some countries, you'll find landlords refusing to register the contract with tax authorities, which besides being illegal, can derail your visa or residency paperwork. You might also struggle to get your deposit back. Many landlords come up with all sorts of reasons not to return it. Another risk? Not all landlords are responsive. If you have a leak, broken appliance, or something more serious, you might find yourself waiting, or worse, having to cover the cost yourself if they simply don't care to be responsible. And you can't make the space truly your own. Renovations, painting, or significant changes are usually off limits, which can be frustrating when trying to create a home. We've rented furnished homes for the last 6 years and only bought necessities and a few decor items like blankets, rugs, and small kitchen appliances. In Guadalajara, one of the first rentals we lived in had freshly painted white walls, and we decided not to mess them up by hanging anything, which felt unmotivating and depressing after a while. It does keep us from collecting stuff, but feels like we're a temporary guest in our own living space, many times for years. Downsizing to a simpler way of living wasn't as hard for us as we thought it might be, though it could be a tough transition for others. Surprisingly, having less has brought us a sense of freedom. There's something truly liberating about not owning so much that it ties you down. Life feels lighter and, honestly, a lot less stressful. And in Portugal, we've upgraded light fixtures, faucets, and cabinets. Additional money besides rent that we will not recover, but adds greatly to our quality of life. When you know you're living in a place temporarily, it's tough to put down roots and really get to know people on a deeper level. Every time you sign a lease, there's a bittersweet feeling knowing you might soon be saying goodbye to friends you've just made. When you're always starting fresh, you can miss out on those deeper bonds, and over time, that can feel a bit isolating. Buying a home and putting down roots sends a message to yourself and to others. I'm staying. I'm part of this community. And that can open the door to more meaningful, long-term connections. There's something incredibly grounding about building a dependable support network. The friend who checks in on you when you're sick, who knows just how you like your coffee, and most importantly, is available to call whenever there's an emergency. Those kinds of relationships take time and consistency to grow. And here's the thing. Studies have shown that people who have strong, lasting friendships are not only happier, they're actually healthier and tend to live longer. That's powerful. In popular expat hotspots like Madrid, Barcelona, or Lisbon, the supply of quality rentals just doesn't meet the demand, which drives prices through the roof and sparks high competition. And as a foreigner, you may hit extra roadblocks. Landlords often prefer tenants with a local financial history, a stable job contract, or even a local guarantor. In both Mexico and Portugal, we've personally been asked to provide a guarantor when applying for rentals. Sometimes offering a larger deposit or paying several months of rent up front can help, but in many cases, it's not enough. You can still be rejected simply for not fitting their preferred profile. I'm all about buying a place overseas. Not necessarily right away, but I always think at some point in our lives, I'd like to find the right house, make it our own, and settle down. We're searching for paradise after all, and I don't want to have a landlord in paradise. For me, buying represents more than just a roof over our heads. It's about stability, permanence, and creating something that's truly ours. It's also a long-term investment financially. Owning property overseas not only helps us to diversify our investments, but also to have a foot in the local market. But beyond the numbers, it gives me peace of mind, especially as we get older. Sure, owning comes with responsibilities and a bit less flexibility, but for me, the trade-off is worth it. You gain stability, identity, and the freedom to shape your space and your lifestyle exactly the way you want. That, to me, is part of the dream we're chasing. Buying abroad lets you turn your housing costs into real ownership. Every mortgage payment chips away at your stake in a concrete asset that can grow in value over time. In fact, a survey by Expat Network found that 80% of respondents plan to buy overseas outright, and another 17% intend to rent first but snag a property as soon as they can. Proof that building equity is top of mind for most expats. Over the long haul, though, owning gives you an appreciating asset rather than rent receipts you'll never see again. That sense of stability can be priceless when you're far from home. The fear of being away from your once regular life and not being able to fit in your new country can get overwhelming and stressful. And knowing we're protected from the uncertainty of rising rents and housing shortages offers a real sense of security. Owning home abroad means having a settled base that's all yours. No landlord to answer to, no surprise rent hikes. You can create routines, build lasting friendships with neighbors, and truly become part of the local community. And on a more personal note, for pet lovers like us, owning means you don't have to worry about those no pet clauses in rental contracts. They reduce the number of rentals available significantly. It's your home. You can renovate the kitchen, landscape the garden, and paint the walls any color you wish. That kind of creative freedom is a major benefit of buying over renting. Having a home of your own gives you a stronger sense of place. You can personalize it, creating a sanctuary that reflects who you are. It's a powerful psychological anchor, one that can make a new country feel like home, not just a temporary stop along the way. If you want to buy a home overseas but don't want to live there full-time, or you'd simply like to earn extra income, having an investment property may be a smart strategic move. First, it's fantastic for diversifying your portfolio. You're spreading your risk and potentially boosting returns across different economies and currencies. Think of it as not putting all your eggs in one basket. Then there's the financial upside. You can earn steady rental income, giving you positive cash flow. Plus, your property could appreciate in value over time, growing your wealth. And here's another perk. Depending on where your property's located and your personal tax situation, you might also be able to write off certain expenses like property management fees, repairs, furnishings, and travel costs related to managing the rental. That can create important tax advantages and offset some of your annual expenses. Of course, managing a rental from afar can be challenging, so hiring a property management company to handle bookings, check-ins, and maintenance can make it more hands-off. Just be sure to run the numbers carefully. Property management fees can eat into your profits, and not all markets have the same rental demand or regulations. A big advantage of owning a home is that it can protect you from inflation. As the cost of living goes up over time, home values and rent prices usually go up too. So if you own your home, its value is likely to increase along with inflation, meaning your investment keeps up with rising costs. It's a way to hold on to your money's value instead of watching it lose buying power. Instead of throwing money away on rent each month, we've invested in something that not only holds long-term value, but also gives us the freedom to focus our retirement budget on daily living costs, travel, experiences, upkeep, and taxes, not unpredictable rent increases. That kind of financial stability makes it easier to plan ahead and feel confident about the years to come. Owning could be a tax strategy in some countries. For example, in Spain, each individual gets a €300,000 exemption for their primary residence from the wealth tax. So for a couple, that's up to €600,000. And in some regions of Spain, this could be the difference between staying under the minimum taxable threshold or being hit with extra taxes. It's a detail that's definitely worth exploring with a local tax advisor. And what about other perks that ownership unlocks? Things renting just can't offer. Some countries offer residence by investment visas, often called golden visas. In Greece, for instance, a property purchase of €250,000 can make you eligible for a residency visa, and that can eventually lead to long-term residency or even citizenship. That's not just a financial move, it's a potential gateway to a whole new lifestyle in Europe.
Buying involves these massive down payments, or cash out of pocket, legal fees, foreign taxes, property taxes, and potentially inheritance taxes later on. It all adds up. In Spain, for example, if you're a non-resident, you may need something like 40% of the purchase price up front for a down payment if you use a mortgage. That's 40. That's very high. Renting, typically you just need a deposit, the first month's rent, and application fees. All costs and efforts for upkeep of a purchase home fall on you. We own 3 rental properties in the US. We know about costs. Maintenance and repairs can be hard to manage in a foreign country where you may not know reliable contractors or speak the language fluently. When we lived in Mexico, if you needed repair services, you often get the gringo price list, but if you were a local or spoke Spanish, you get a regular price list. Nowadays, things are improving with better and more reliable verification processes. Apps like Oscar here in Portugal helps tenants and owners find good services at set prices with a great review system. But nothing beats referrals from friends and neighbors. While property can appreciate, it's not always guaranteed, is it? The value of your property is subject to local real estate market fluctuations, no matter where you own. We've seen instances like the global financial crisis of 2008 that greatly affected the housing markets, especially in Spain. I often wonder why you can still find beachfront properties at affordable prices in some regions in Spain. It's because they really suffer a real estate crisis. In 2008, new construction halted, sales plummeted, millions of people lost jobs, especially in construction, and house prices fell dramatically. It's a reminder that value declines are very possible, but you weather those storms if you're in it for the long haul. Funding a home purchase with US dollars, you're exposed to currency exchange rate risks. If you have a mortgage and borrow in the local currency, your monthly payments will rise or fall with the exchange rate. One month you're comfortable, the next, the US dollar value weakens, and surprise, your mortgage suddenly costs you more. And when you eventually sell, a weaker local currency can shrink your take-home gains. When you use banks or money transfer services, they typically add a bit extra to the exchange rate, which means you end up paying more, especially if you're transferring a large amount of money often. Sometimes plans can change unexpectedly. Life throws you curveballs and you can find yourself selling your home and moving back to the States or your home country. Unloading a property overseas isn't as simple as handing back the key. Selling often drags on for months or even years. Home ownership can seriously cripple any spontaneous moves, so it pays to weigh how much freedom you're willing to trade for the stability of owning in foreign lands. Each country has its own rules regarding property ownership for foreigners. Some require you to have a local identification number or a funded local bank account. No matter how you look at it, between the paperwork, potential language barriers, and unfamiliar local regulations, it can feel like a crash course on everything you never wanted to know about bureaucracy. The loan process alone can be incredibly slow in some countries, and you also need to watch out for squatter laws if you don't plan on staying at the home full time. Beware and educate yourself with common scams. The Mexican real estate market was a bit of the wild, wild west. It's not unheard of to buy a house only to discover someone else has an equally valid and legit title, claiming to also be the owner. Trust me, bringing a local lawyer and tax advisor on board is worth every penny to avoid these surprises. If you're considering a move to Spain, Mexico, or Portugal, we share links to our go-to partners who can help you navigate through the buying process. Many young expats may be looking to move overseas to buy a home and settle a family, while other expats, the empty nesters like us, are leaving a grown kid back home. We need to think of future repercussions in the case of owning a property that we left to him. This is where the decision gets more nuanced, especially concerning taxes and inheritance laws. Yes, there's a chance for our son Devin to end up paying a lot of money and suffer unimaginable stress dealing with foreign bureaucracy while living in the US. You see, renting simplifies things immensely for Devin. Upon our passing, There's no foreign property for him to deal with. Our financial assets will be handled through our US-based estate planning. Buying, on the other hand, this creates a more complex but not impossible situation for him. We just don't want to cause a lot of stress to him.
The inherited property will likely be subject to the inheritance laws of the country where it's located. These laws can be very different from the US and may even have forced heirship rules that dictate who inherits the property regardless of what your will says, and there may be inheritance taxes to pay also. In Spain, you generally have 6 months from the person's death to declare and pay inheritance tax. Until that's sorted, heirs usually can't transfer property or get to their inherited assets.
Devin could very well end up facing 2 separate probate processes, one in the US for our overall estate and one in the country where the property is located. This is because most countries require that real estate be probated locally under that country's inheritance laws, even if you already went through probate back in the US. That means double the legal cost, double the paperwork, and in some countries, more local taxes.
While the US does not tax the recipient of an inheritance directly, the value of the foreign property would be included in the total estate for determining if he owes US estate taxes. However, the estate tax exemption is currently very high. As of 2025, it's just under $13 million per person. That means most Americans won't owe any federal estate tax, even if their estate includes foreign property. A significant advantage is that when Devin inherits the property, its cost basis is stepped up to the fair market value at the time of our death. This means if he sells it immediately, he would likely pay little to no capital gains tax in the US. So let's say we bought the house years ago for 200,000 euros, and when we pass away, it's worth 400,000. Devin's cost basis, meaning the value of the IRS uses to calculate capital gains tax, would be stepped up to 400,000. If he chooses to sell it right away for that same amount, he wouldn't owe any US capital gains tax because there's no gain from the stepped up value. This stepped up basis is a huge tax benefit for heirs and can save them tens of thousands of dollars in capital gains taxes. But it only applies upon death. It does not work if we gift him the property while we're still alive.
Our son would need to report the inheritance from foreign persons to the IRS. They want to know about large inflows of money from overseas, whether it's cash, property, or investments. They need to ensure they're not part of an unreported income, hidden assets, or money laundering.
Neither of us is wrong. We just have different priorities and risk tolerances. Guillermo prioritizes flexibility and simplicity. He wants to spend his money to the last penny. While I value stability and investment, I want to continue to build wealth in case of an emergency, diversify overseas, and be able to leave an inheritance to Devin. To find a balance and compromise, the strategy that we use for the time being is the rent first, buy later approach.
For now, I want to embrace the renter's life until at least into our 60s before considering a permanent move. We have a Monte Carlo scenario that involves a home purchase in the future. We will continue to live in different cities and rent for 2 years at a time and then hop on to the next one. We believe 2 years is plenty of time to learn and adjust to different environments, test climates, try different home styles, and face new cultures. It hasn't worked out exactly like that so far. We had to stay in Mexico for 3 years due to COVID, but we got to live in 2 neighborhoods and we got to travel to 9 countries during our stay. Here in Lisbon, it's been 4 years, and as many as you know, we will be applying for Portuguese citizenship and we need to reside in the country for 5 years. This will allow us to live anywhere in the European Union and execute the 2-year stays more easily. So far, we've lived in 2 different neighborhoods near the Portuguese capital and visited 13 countries and counting.
Chances are we'll eventually find a city that we both genuinely love, a place that checks all the boxes and feels right for the long term. While we may continue exploring for now, our goal is to get settled and to choose a home that can support the lifestyle we want as we age. If you're planning your own move abroad and want a tool to help guide your thinking, we've expanded our checklist into a free, downloadable guide. It includes not just the city criteria, but also deep dives into neighborhood scouting, home features, and day-to-day living essentials, the often overlooked things that can make or break your experience. If you'd like a free copy, just scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the video description to download it.
Having a checklist like this just makes the whole process less overwhelming. It helps us stay grounded and make smart choices without second-guessing every little thing.
By the time we're ready to buy, we'll have gained a much deeper understanding of different cultures and the day-to-day realities of living in several regions. We'll also be in a stronger financial position, with a clearer picture of the tax implications tied to buying a home overseas. This approach not only fulfills my wish for a permanent home and a solid investment, but still leaves room for flexibility if life throws us a curveball. And for our son Devin, it means that when the time comes, he'll inherit a property in a place we've carefully vetted. We've done our best to make the transition smoother and more secure for him.
And if you made it this far, you want to know the results of our online poll about buying versus renting. Thank you for participating. It was a great turnout. The responses show just how divided people are, and there's no clear consensus. There is no one-size-fits-all answer here, and that's part of what makes this such a great conversation to have.
I think what's become really clear is there's no single right or wrong answer. It's such a deeply personal decision. It's influenced by your unique financial situation, your long-term goals, your lifestyle preferences, and your tolerance for risk. Which is why for many people, a popular and often very sensible compromise is the rent first, buy later strategy. The try before you buy approach.
Ultimately, no matter which path you choose, it's pretty much essential to consult local experts. Talk to reputable real estate agents and tax professionals who are familiar with the international property laws and the tax implications, both locally and back home. We partner with some great tax, legal, and real estate professionals that we trust, and you'll find their links in the video description below.
So which team are you on? Rent or buy? Let us know in the comments. And if you like this video, click the like and subscribe if you haven't yet. It's free for you, and it helps us a lot. See you soon.